part of what we want to do is we want to develop a strong philosophy that we can rely on. And a big part of the philosophy that we study on this mastermind is the philosophy of success, also called the science of personal achievement, as outlined by Dr. Napoleon Hill in his books that he wrote and invested his entire life literally being an evangelist for, preaching all over the country, speaking to large groups of people, forming various business alliances with billionaires and other government leaders. President of the United States he had a mastermind with, all in an effort to spread this philosophy of achievement. And over the years, I have occasionally run into people who would criticize Dr. Hill and his works and his life. I read an article a few years ago that was a total hit piece, just tore him down, called him a charlatan, all kinds of negative things, brought up negative things from his past, and I thought that is interesting. And a few days ago, I was on Facebook, and there was an ad for Think and Grow Rich, the movie, and in the comments section, I noticed one of my Facebook friends, a person that I knew, come out and say, he was a fraud, he died broke, I have this story of this and this and this, don't listen to him, so on and so forth. And so you see these negative things sometimes pop up about people. And there's a book that was written, it's a biography of Dr. Napoleon Hill. It's called A Lifetime of Riches. And I've known about this book for a number of years, but I kind of consciously stayed away from it a little bit because I didn't want my faith in his philosophy or the man to be diminished. I like the effect of faith that this philosophy has on me, and I like holding Dr. Hill in high esteem and high regard. And I knew that this biography that was written, although it was authorized by the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I knew that it contained some of the warts of Dr. Hill's life. We all have warts, don't we? We all have things that we've done that maybe we have wished that we hadn't have done. We've all made mistakes that hopefully were part of life's path to leading us to a higher consciousness and better decision-making in the future. So I knew this book had some of these things, and I kind of stayed away from it. But when I saw this comment from my friend on this Think and Grow Rich movie, and then somehow I was reminded of this book, and I noticed there was an Audible version, I thought, you know what? I'm going to listen to this book. So over the last few days, I listened to A Lifetime of Riches, which is the biography of Dr. Napoleon Hill. And I wanted to pass along just a couple of thoughts from my study of this, and then the lesson that I really want to pass along that I think is valuable and can help us all on our journey in life. So in this book, it did a bunch of things. Like, it did bring out some of the flaws that Napoleon Hill had. He had some family issues with his first family. He was married, he had kids, and he would travel the country. He'd be away from the family for long periods of time and kind of left them to fend for themselves at times. And as I'm listening to this part of his story as a family man, I've got 4 kids and my wife, and family is important to me, and taking care of my kids is important to me. When I was a kid, my dad left when I was 8, so I grew up without a dad. So I hear these parts of his life, and I'm thinking that is kind of sad that he messed up there because he was pursuing what he felt in his heart was his life mission. And who is any of us to judge, really? I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that it said in this book was that he kept feeling like he had this inner voice telling him that his work was important, his work was grand, he had this mission to get this information out. And who's to judge? Who is to judge? Some of the scriptures in a lot of the religious writings, they talk about God as the judge. Judgment is mine and mine alone. Some of these lines from these religious books talk about, and I like that idea that we as people really are responsible for our own lives and doing the best that we can to live them fully. And when I say judgment, people get confused on this word judgment. We all have to have judgment, right? We have to have good judgment. We have to make distinctions. We have to be able to say, this person is good for my life. This person is not good for my life. This business is good for my life. This business is not good for my life. That's judgment, right? When I'm talking about judgment in this sense, what I'm really talking about is condemnation. And condemnation is where you take a person and you say, because they did action A, they are condemned as a horrible person. And you just judge them and say, they're condemned. You know, what a bad person, they did this thing. That's the sense of judgment that I'm referring to. One of my favorite lines on this comes from the New Testament, where there's this line that says, who are you to have a mote in your eye or a beam in your eye and running around trying to tell people that they have a beam in their eye? And then it says something about pull the beam out of your own eye. Your energy is much better directed that way. So anyway, point of the story is, as I was listening to his book, he did have flaws. And with those flaws, he had great attributes of character. And he had monumental successes and periods of massive influence. And he had monumental failures and points of his life where he was in the depths of despair. But every single time he was in one of those depths of despair, he was able to rise up and continue on and set another purpose for his life. He lost it all and then got it back, and then lost it all and then got it back, and then lost it all and then got it back. I don't know how many times this happened, but it happened a lot. And so I get to the end of this book, and really my key takeaway from this book was that Napoleon Hill was human. He was a great human. And yes, he had flaws, but he also had a lot of just really amazing things that he did in his life. And his work has inspired so many millions and millions and millions of people, and is still doing so. And the lesson that I want to pass along, that I'm picking up for me, and maybe can be a lesson for you, is about faith. As we're developing our philosophy, a lot of our philosophy, we kind of have to choose. What are the pillars of our philosophy? What are the things that we believe? What are the things that we are going to base our lives and our businesses upon? What are the things and ideas and principles that we are going to be loyal to? And here would be my advice, is that our philosophy never be based upon faith in a person, in an institution, in an organization, because all of those things can disappoint us. All of those things have flaws. All of those things can challenge us at times. I think it's better to build our philosophy on principles. The philosophy of success, the science of personal achievement, took me from broke and struggling, living in a 1984 single-wide mobile home, to becoming very successful, having passive income, to be free, paying off the mortgage on my house, buying our dream home in the country, starting a successful business, picking myself up after every time that I fell. So I've tested the philosophy in my own life, and I've used my mind to reason the philosophy out. And what I mean by that is the things that I study, I don't believe just because Napoleon Hill wrote them. I believe them because my mind reasons that they are logical and sound and valid, and then I test them in the laboratory of my life, and I get great results. So my faith is not in Napoleon Hill. My faith is in the principles that he did such a wonderful job illustrating and passing along. This also relates to the idea of loyalty. Early on in my business career, loyalty was a big thing to me, and it still is. But my concept of loyalty has changed. In the beginning, it was all about loyalty to people, loyalty to institutions, loyalty to companies. You got to be loyal. You got to be loyal. You got to be loyal to these companies. And what I've come to at this point in my life is my loyalties really should lie with myself, with my family, with the vision, my definite purpose, where I want to go, my principles. If a company violates principles that are near and dear to my heart, does that company deserve my loyalty? Does that person deserve my continued loyalty and alliance in business just because loyalty is a good thing? No, I don't think so. I'm going to choose to be loyal to the things that are most important to me. And so I wanted to pass this along as you're continuing your journey, learning, studying, learning about people, learning about ideas. Just beware to build your philosophy based upon your own reasoning, your own practice in your own life, and be loyal to the principles that you come to know in your heart are good and true and right and valid. And that way, if ever you run into something where there's a critic out there criticizing someone who maybe has taught you something great, it won't hurt your faith. We need faith, friends. We need faith. To move forward in life in the most powerful way, we need a strong faith. We need a vibrant faith. And we want to protect that faith. And I think the message that I passed along, at least for me, does a really great job of shielding my faith, the power of my heart, the power of my soul in a great way so that I can continue the journey in the best possible way.